Wichita Downtown Streets Conceptual Plan.
Good morning and welcome.
Honorable Mayor, members of council, Troy Anderson, City Manager's Office. I just want to take an opportunity just to introduce our consultant, Allison Fletcher with Nelson Nygaard. She's going to be making the presentation.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Thank you. This is a process that's been going on for a long time, so I'm happy to be here to refresh all of you. This project originated back in before 2010 with the Project Downtown Master Plan, which was adopted in 2010, which cemented a vision to look at downtown streets as being an important component of assuring and soundproofing the future for downtown. That plan proposed looking at the street hierarchy, making sure that there were multimodal options in the downtown, and reassessing the design of some of the streets. This plan itself started back in 2018. I'll talk a bit about the process. It proposes conversion of one-way streets to two-way streets in the downtown. It proposes some roadways that would go from 4 to 3 lanes that would have the same ability to carry the capacity that they have today while doing other things as well. Some other things that are inside of the conceptual plan, which I believe many of you are familiar with, having seen the briefing packets and also having recently been at the district advisory boards. There's some aspects of looking at transit corridors, those key corridors being on Broadway and Douglas. This plan was looking at many other plans that were happening, bringing those together in terms of how those fit into the streets of downtown. Those are streets that could be prioritized for even better transit service. And then looking forward, we see a lot more potential for multimodal corridors along 1st and 2nd, Waterman, Market, and Topeka. This plan also does a lot with a little. It's very pragmatic in terms of looking at striping and signal enhancements in order to get more out of what the streets are doing with what you have today with very little investment. So working with Gary Jansen and their team, we've looked at ways to economically put different improvements in the street of downtown to get more out of them. An example of some of the things that could come out of this plan are very similar to what has happened on Emporia Street with simple restriping and replacement of signals. There was a lot of stakeholder buy-in and what happened with that. So with each of the projects that are within this plan, those would go through a design process, would have community feedback, and so on. Talking more about the process itself, this plan is a blueprint of the community vision that came out of many continued events with the community. There were 4 kind of focused major workshops that happened. The first one started with looking at background plans that relate to the downtown streets and setting goals with the community. That started in early 2019 with the goal setting workshop here in Wichita. The goals of this plan are around aspects of having more options for getting around the downtown, having better safety. Having better safety makes more people walk in the downtown, which means more business in the downtown, and more comfort and enjoyment in the downtown. The second workshop looked at goals in terms of how that could translate to design. Then there were workshops subsequent to that to look at, okay, we have 4 or 5 different alternatives. We were out at open streets. We were out at different festivals in the downtown, and then bringing those together with final plans, which we presented in the fall of 2020 through a virtual engagement workshop, which had an in-person parallel at Century 2, where people could drop in with their masks and participate online. We had a lot of participation in these online surveys that we did in conjunction with each of these workshops. And then now, since that time, we've been coming back to you to refresh where the plan has been, where it's going. We've been doing some refinements to the plan. We had a newly appointed steering committee with the new city administration back in 2022. And so we're bringing the results of all of this community process, all these mailers and surveys that went out, and how those have landed into the plan to recommend this plan to you. This is just a list of some of the different activities that we've had. I had about a dozen meetings in the past year, going through steering committee meetings, advisory boards, advanced plans meetings, and going to all 6 district advisory boards. These are some examples of some of the concepts of, okay, taking that community vision and those goals in terms of what's feasible for achieving those goals through the designs of the streets themselves in the downtown. This is an example of before and after of Market Street. Today, Market Street is a one-way street. We know from studies in transportation that one-way streets that are especially multi-lane one-way streets can lead to adverse safety outcomes for many users in the streets. You can lead to more T-bone crashes, leads to more jockeying of the lanes and more speeding. Having a two-way street also is more intuitive, especially for visitors that are coming, that you want to have commerce in the downtown. having more options, not having to go as many blocks out of your way. So a street like Market Street is something with striping and signals that could be done in the near term while allowing other things to also fit in the street as well. Topeka would be a pair with that, just a couple blocks over, having that one-way street become a two-way street, having more protected all ages and abilities facilities on that street to make sure that the downtown is for people of all ages. Your grandmother, your kids can be walking safely in the downtown. English Street is another street that could be converted from one-way to two-way. Positive outcome of that is that also more parking supply could fit alongside that street to support the adjacent land uses to provide more access to that particular district of the downtown. Main Street is a street that's very, very high speed, just from an example in terms of 4 lanes all heading in one direction. It's also a little bit unintuitive when all of a sudden that street abruptly becomes a two-way street, creates very confusing intersections. With very simple restriping, that could be converted to two-way and provide even more access while sustaining the function that it has today for circulation. In the more longer term, going out maybe 5 years, we could also look at streets like Waterman Street, a redesign for that, going from the 4 to 3 lanes, allowing some connectivity east-west on that particular street. Also, in the more medium term, Broadway is a very important street to the downtown that could have a very similar simple 4 to 3 lane conversion where the 2 lanes that are currently functioning as left lanes and through lanes could be aligned with each other so you have better sight lines when you're going down the street. This would also allow the enhancements for transit. This would also bring in the principles from the safe corridor that's happening just north of downtown into the downtown so that you have a really great pedestrian street coming into the core and heart of your downtown where people want to be. This map kind of summarizes all of those pieces in terms of the implementation phasing. Those streets that are in navy are those that could be done soon. There's the potential, if this plan is adopted, to have these earmarked within your capital improvement plan very soon. There's money that's been set aside for these. Those would be Market, Topeka, English, and Main. In the midterm, looking at streets like Broadway and Waterman. Ongoing after that, there can be continued design of these projects, improving them as you see how they perform after they're installed. And then there's a project on Douglas that also we would like to have happen after this to continue the community process of looking at what is feasible with that particular corridor. Just going deeper on those financial considerations, the staff is requesting an initiation of $460,000 of the Downtown Streets implementation budget from the SIP for the design of near-term improvements and the consideration of looking at Douglas Avenue, which was not addressed in this particular plan. Individual projects will be returned to the City Council in the future, and each of those individual projects will also be an opportunity for the community to engage in it. This is a plan. It's a plan for what's feasible, what achieves the goals, what is the reflection of the vision from the community, and each of these becomes its own design and engineering project after this plan would be adopted. From the legal considerations side of things, the resolution has been reviewed and approved from the city's law department, and the recommendation from our team is to recommend that City Council approve the plan and authorize the necessary signatures. But I am here also with others from the city to answer any questions and discussion that you'd like to engage with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. And again, yes, myself, Allison, we also have Gary Jansen and Tia Ramo available for questioning.
Are there questions for staff at this point? Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Not really a question. I'm supportive of this. I just want to always highlight if there's ways for us to do more delineation on the bike lanes, walk lanes. I think we should do that. I've been looking into some rubber delineators that kind of look like curbs, but just something more than the paint. We've heard a lot from folks who ride bikes that sometimes it's dangerous with that paint and drivers don't see it. So I'm supportive. Just want to throw that out there.
Further questions for staff? Councilmember Ballard.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to say in my district, I've received a lot of pushback in the last day or so, especially since the article in the newspaper. If you could just explain, which I kind of understand it and am supportive, but most of this is centered around walkability and providing more safety. I mean, public safety is obviously our biggest push, but if you could just explain why some people think we're just trying to randomly switch everything up. If you could just explain a little bit of that, I would appreciate it.
Sure. So this is something that is, it's been an evolution of downtown street review analysis across the nation. Yes, there have been numerous studies. We found a number of success stories around one-way to two-way conversions, not only for the reasons you just described of traffic calming, increased mobility around multimodal transportation, increased safety, creating shorter travel distances for pedestrians crossing streets, but also the economic impact, right? We're finding across the nation that these one-way to two-way conversions are making it easier for businesses to grow and to find opportunities for location of tenants within existing lease spaces, the opportunity for new non-residential as well as residential housing opportunities in the urban core. Again, this has been a transition that folks have been studying over the last couple of decades. The traffic patterns, not only of vehicular, but pedestrian as well, have shifted over the last half century, right? We're not trying to move hundreds of people into downtown for the workday and then try to get them out of downtown into suburbia as quickly as possible as the model once was 50 years ago, right? Now downtowns are becoming 24/7, 365, vibrant, active places where people live, work, and play. And these one-way to two-way conversions are in direct response to that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you. Not really a question, just a few comments to kind of follow up with that, and I appreciate your question. Prior to being on council, this was a lot of the work that I had done in the past trying to increase mobility. And so I really want to thank staff for working on this and also the consultant for working on this project. I also want to take an opportunity to thank the many, many community members who provided engagement. One of the things that I was really excited and impressed with since 2019, we've had incredible, robust community engagement regarding this and lots of different ways for people to provide input. As I mentioned, upon first blush, I would have said this is about mobility and about safety, but it truly is about economic development. I've always said the world looks a little bit different at maybe 1 mile an hour when you're walking or 10 miles an hour when you're riding a bike versus 40 miles an hour in a car. And so initiatives like this provide opportunities for people to walk from one venue to another, maybe make a purchase, maybe stop and get a cup of coffee, all those different things that we want for economic development, but it also brings people down to the core. But I think the ultimate goal is truly to attract and retain talent in our community, and this is one of the things that people have told us they want. So I will be supportive of this, and thank you to staff and the community members for all their work on this project. Thank you.
Further questions for staff? See none, thank you, and please stay on hand. I'm sure we'll have other questions come up throughout discussion. Open up to the public input on this item. All right, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. I think a lot of it has been touched on, but I just do want to highlight that downtown is transforming thanks to our new medical school. We also have a new culinary arts school going downtown. Of course, we have the baseball stadium. We have a lot of more commerce and entertainment, and also more folks who are living downtown. We might actually see, I think with some of the stuff on the horizon, more investment into downtown that will attract more folks there. And the goal is to make sure that we are modernizing our streets with an eye towards safety as much as possible when we increase pedestrians. No one wants to hear more stories of folks getting hit by cars or anything along those lines when they're just trying to get to their apartment or go meet mom at the library who's just getting out of class at one of our institutions that are now located downtown. So again, just thanks to staff and to our consultant for continuously working on these plans so that we can have our streets modernize and keep up really with the growth in our economy. And also, thank you to the folks, I believe it was over 24 public engagement opportunities. They said dozens on the slide, but I thought the number might have been about 24, 25. Also, 20,000 plus postcards going out to stakeholders in downtown area. This seems like one of the most, I guess, publicly engaged projects we've had, or I've seen in a long time from my position. So I do want to thank folks for reaching out, really getting stakeholders involved, and being able to bring this project to where it is today, where we can vote on it and keep moving forward. So with that, I will make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the resolution endorsing the Wichita Downtown Streets Conceptual Plan and authorizing necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Hoheisel. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.